Ah,
I've had a nightmare with technology.
why is my screen still that size?
I don't know. Did you sort it out last time?
I don't know what to do. There's nothing to sort. I haven't changed anything. I've got no particular settings.
I've no idea. Well, I've just found out that the Canon web utility doesn't work on the M1 Mac.
Well
So
done.
I was trying to scramble it to bear his Mac, but that's got only one USB-C port on it, and won't you can't run the HDMI. Basically, you can't put the adapter won't send the signal through. So I thought cancel or just suck it up and use the webcam built into my Mac. So here we are.
Ooh. Hey, what does my audio sound like?
Sounds nice. Sounds crisp. Yeah. Well, I was going to use. I can't show you anything because my Mac's resting on my flight case with me all my gear in it now. I had the Rode MTG mic set up on. Oh no, it is yet. But basically, yeah, I couldn't get the USB input wasn't going to work with all the other things, and I just couldn't be asked.
Technology, is it worth it? Do you know what I mean?
So this is like the other day because I got the M1 Mac because the Intel chips can't deal with the process with the files from the Canon R5. That was my whole logic behind it. I didn't consider how much other shit wouldn't work with the M1 Mac because it's such a new technology. I was texting one of my old mates from Apple, and he just said he's got no sympathy for me. It's the cost of being an early adopter when you rely on the equipment for work.
Yeah.
So couldn't really say anything about that.
That's always the way, isn't it? Because like you tend to find if you get something when it's first out, you will get like problems and glitches, which is probably what puts a lot of people off when you first test things and you go, "This is shit." It's because it's not ready, really.
Yeah,
I mean, in the labs for about 100 times, but now you're testing it by like the millions. You're bound to find problems.
Well, it's like the some of the problems with the EOS utility. It's not with the M1 Mac as such. It's with the operating system, which is a new operating system as well on the M1 Mac. So if you got a different version of the operating system on it, apparently it'll work for you. But I don't. I've got fucking the newest operating system as well. So hey ho, just part of the problems. But anyway, let's do this.
So I think the topic was how to start. So what I mean by that? What I mean by that?
Start?
To me, what I meant by how to start after thinking about it was how to actively start seeking possible opportunity. So not necessarily jobs, but more how you kind of put yourself out there and the things that you need to do to put yourself out there to start potentially getting jobs. Because obviously a lot of people like the idea of photography or videography or whatever, or just being a creative and kind of expect the jobs to come to them. But in the simplest terms is when you first start and you have to go out and get them. And the variables that go into how and why you do that. That's what I was thinking anyway.
Yeah, well, two things. First of all, we need to do an intro because we just started chatting.
That was the intro?
After that wasn't because you didn't introduce yourself or me, and obviously after the feedback last time where you spoke for 5 minutes and I looked gormless according to me mate, I'm doing it this time. But I'm going to use the first bit. And then I'm going to go cut to this. So if you have stuck with us through the last couple of videos, you will already know that I'm Clarky. This is Ryan. We are photographers at different points in our journey, and we're just here to have a chat about it and hopefully help others along the way. This week, Ryan's idea is to talk about how to kind of get started, which is kind of linked into something I was thinking as well, which was, should you work for free? I think the two of them tie together really, really well. So yeah, go on, Ryan. Sorry for interrupting your flow.
Was that the intro?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That didn't sound genuine.
It did sound genuine, yeah. Mine wasn't too much different from what Clarky said. Really, is when I started thinking about this, how to start. It was not, a lot of people will go out there and go, you get this camera, you get this camera, you get that microphone, you get that, all them things, and you put too many obstacles in your way before you actually start. I think the simplest things is you could start realistically with as small as a good smartphone, or an SLR or a mirrorless or whatever you want to be. You just have to have some form of recording or photographic equipment of any description. I think that the how to start is kind of really up to you, on a personal basis, on a, what are the things that go into how you start. So things, the mental capacity of actually putting yourself out there, I think is one of the biggest hurdles what a lot of people find. You're more than welcome to go down the beach and start taking pictures of the seashore, or go and take pictures around town, but how do you actually get to that level of people start asking you? And that was what we've come to talk about, I think.
I mean, again, I know talk a lot about the things, or the time span of my journey to here, and how different it is now than it was, nearly 20 years ago. But there's one of those things, isn't it? Like, Instagram's a huge tool. It's massive. Yeah. However, I think it can have a negative effect, whereas you can be successful on Instagram, but that's like being a soldier in Call of Duty. It's like my social media is probably suffer, should I say, because I spend my kind of professional time focusing on other people's content, and the jobs I'm being paid to do, and that does have a detrimental effect on kind of how much I update my socials. And I think if you go back to when you're not doing things yourself, or when you're not working for other people, you're focused on that so much. Like, want to post every day, you want to get this out there, want to do this project. Like, going back a couple of years before I kind of really got busy again, when I had my little hiatus from photography, when I fell out of love with it, I did a few things with a mate of mine who's a big sneakerhead, and we went out with smoke grenades and did stuff like that. I was like proper passionate about it, and I had an idea in my head to do. And I think taking that, it's sometimes hard to keep hold of that drive to put yourself out there. Just banging something on Instagram is great, and if you've got thousands of followers, you're like, yeah, I love your photos, love this, love that. But if it's not getting you anywhere, you need to be, like you're saying, putting yourself out there more. And how do you do that? You can't just rely on someone stumbling across your Instagram and saying, this is amazing. And I know for a fact that obviously that works for a lot of people. And some of your works come through people seeing your Instagram, but you have to put yourself out there first of all to have that.
I think I went through a bit of a reverse of that to some degree. What I mean by that is, like, I don't know if I spoke about my origin story one of the last times, but I was that person just going down the beach and taking things, or walking around the city and taking things, and just kind of not expected, because at the time I didn't even know that it was something I wanted to do, but just going from like just doing things to someone actually, the very first person that came to me through Instagram, funnily enough, apart from like cousins and relatives and things, saying, could you come do this? That was kind of how it started, but that took a long time for that to happen. And it's, do you wait, or do you actively, kind of take control of your own destiny? So after that initial, people, your internet connection is unstable. After that initial, like, do I? Oh God, it's because we've got about 1,000 devices on the thing. Just got one of them new 4th Gen Alexas. My phone's probably on it. Let's turn that off. No, it's not. Becky's phone's definitely on it. Technology. Anyway, so after I got over that, like, initial, someone asked me, when I started taking a little bit more control, it was a case of like your own mental stance of, am I good enough to actually ask someone, can I do that work? Or you need to be getting better at spotting opportunities, I think, is the big one.
Definitely. You're freezing. You're frozen. I don't even know if you're talking.
now?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
This camera's shit.
Yeah, you're out of focus.
The annoying thing is there's no manual controls, or you know what I mean. Well, there's no auto controls because Nickels are shit with. Anyway, nothing now.
But yeah, like that kind of links onto my thought process this week of should you work for free, like putting yourself out there and taking those opportunities. Like there's a couple to a handful of occasions back in my early days where I kind of got taken advantage of by a client where they were like, oh, there's no money on this one, but let's work together on it and we'll do something next time. And next time doesn't come because they move on to some other photographer who's going to fall for the same thing. But there's an experience element to that as well, but it doesn't. My thinking was back then, I should have been more forthcoming at going out to seek out work and saying, let's do this project together. Let's do something that's hopefully going to lead to something else. Whereas I know I'm in control of that, then what I'm offering and what I'm doing, as opposed to, work doing it for someone else when they're getting what they want. Like, and a good example of that is RS, my biggest clients for the last couple of years. I'm with them 2 or 3 days a week producing all this content. That came about because Rob found out I was a photographer, and must be 5 years ago, first shot for them. He said, do you fancy doing the website? And he was like, and this is when I'd kind of had my little break from photography. And he said, do you want to do all the website photography? And I was like, yeah, definitely. And he said, well, give me some prices. And at the time, I wasn't confident of where I was in my career or what my path was. And I wanted some stuff off him. I said, tell you what, you just sort me out a couple of these Star Wars helmets, and probably still got some of them kicking about up there, and I'll do the job for you. And we worked like that for quite a while, where I just got bits and pieces out of him and did the jobs in a time that suited me and around what suited me. And then it was only when I sat down with him to say to him, look, let's produce weekly content. Let's get a YouTube channel going. Let's show all the stuff that goes on. When it got to that point, that's when it was, right, we've got to sit down now and work out what it's worth to me and what it's worth to you, because I'm going to be investing so much of my time in this now. I can't be doing this for getting a helmet here or there, or doing it as a favor for a mate. I've got a mate I'm doing a favor for next week or the next couple of weeks, who he's just setting himself up as like a pizza restaurant and a pub. It all got shut down because of everything that's going on, and he's wanting to do something like this for years. And I said to him years ago, sat down with him, we used to work together, I said, as soon as you set your venture up, you let me know and I'll come do your photography for you. I said, and I'll do that for free because I want to help you on that journey. But I'm proper hyped about doing it, because it's going to be, I do loads of my own food photography, but I want to do it for someone else. I want to do it as a proper job, and I'm happy to do that job for free. Nothing might ever come of it, but someone else might see that and go, I really like that photography. Where did you get that done? And that's how I've ended up in a lot of the situations I'm in, from me making those right decisions for how I've chosen to do something for free.
Yeah, no, I think that correlates well with the put yourself out there. So you've actively engaged that person. You've put yourself out there, not necessarily for a fee, but for the opportunity, possibility at the end. And that ties in a little bit of how to start, really, or where to start, because in the very, very first part, if you've got no kind of back catalogue or portfolio, or if you did approach a pizza company but the only thing you've ever done is took pictures of the beach, it's difficult to approach them and actually say, I can do stuff like this, because you've got no previous work of that type. So putting yourself out there and actively engaging an opportunity, spotting it and going, right, okay, what can I do for that? And then give that person the option. And that is kind of the best way to start, is to kind of just reach for it yourself, because chances are no one's going to really come for you. Or if they are, they're going to come for you for free, which kind of dilutes your whole, purpose. And sometimes that puts you in a spell of, oh, I'll just do that for free, I'll do that for free. And then before you know it, you've done 2 years worth of free things, which will be great, but it hasn't actually took you further on doing it as a full-time thing, on that type of opportunity. So it's a careful line to tread. But I think that what you said is once you're in a position where you know it might actually get you somewhere or could lead on to a next step, that is notable for anyone who's actually thinking, what can I do to get myself out there? It's not enough just to kind of be good, especially anymore. You've got to be good and proactive. So a lot, pretty much everything I would say to some degree has all been based on the fact that I'm like a very keen reach out type of person. I will literally drop into the DMs of anyone or send an email to anyone, and obviously don't just say, can I do this? You've got to pad it up with a bit of like nice English and kind of almost try and build the story for them, which I guess might be in another episode to talk about, is how you do that. You know, what lines do you put in? How do you send your portfolio across? These different things. But the biggest part is just letting go of your own fears of, are you good enough or are you not? Because that's not based on you. You're not going to know if you're good enough or not. It's the person at the end of that belt is going to say if you're good enough or not. It's always that thing with photographers, especially and videographers, is you're always your own worst critic. And you're always self-judging. And we spoke about something like this similar the other week. You're always marking your own homework. You know, you're never actually giving yourself the final answer, which could be better or worse than what it actually is. You need to let somebody else, and that reaching out to that effect is the fear part. But you're only asking a question. The worst you can do is say no, but you allow them.
Sorry, just to cut you off, but going on about being your own worst critic, it's a good thing sometimes, but it's like some of the bigger jobs that I do with RS, I say it's weekly, so it's pretty much always a deadline. It's not often we don't put at least one video out, and a lot of weeks it's two. And that's kind of, it's based on a lot of factors, whether it's possible producing content in a working studio. Like a lot of these guys who run their own channels, that's what they do, so they can do what they want over the 7 days of their week. You know, I'm working around a lot of other factors, and what it comes down to at the end of the week is I'll sit down with Rob and do something, and he'll be like, are you pleased with it? I'm like, I'm too close to it. Like, I can't, you know, sometimes I can't even judge. Like, I know it's good enough to go out and I'm happy with it, but I don't know how good it is. And, you know, we make some videos that we'd call throwaway videos, and, you know, we do, like, I'll go around the studio with the camera and take some, like, kind of just paparazzi style shots of what's going on to use on the socials and stuff. But there's that marker you have for yourself of, if I had more time, would it be better? But then it's also offsetting that against, is my client happy with it? And the answer is, if my client's happy with it, then I should be happy with it. But I think I might have made this reference to food the other week. Like if I was just happy with what I was cooking 2 years ago when I started being big into barbecue, I wouldn't be cooking as good or as well as I am now. You've got to push yourself and strive for that. And it's too easy to just sit there and think, is it good enough? Not be bothered. Could be better. If you're not getting that feedback from other people, or getting someone else to mark your homework, to borrow your phrase slightly, it's never going to kind of, you're never going to kind of get any better.
You'll use that again, I promise you. No, you're right. Like, and I think that's a big put off as well. Is I think that the how to start is all internal. It's almost to some degree got nothing to do with your ability from a photographic standpoint, like your technical ability. It's more about your kind of mental capacity to be able to deal with rejection or deal with the possibility that someone might accept. You know, and that's also almost as fearful, I think, as actually kind of telling yourself that you're not going to do it, as somebody actually saying, yeah, you can come and do it. And then you're like, whoa, hang on. And that's another gauge of like, can you approach a job and know that you will actually facilitate what you've said that you would do? But yeah, I think the mental side of it is the biggest stumble and hurdle, I think, to actually reaching out. And then once you kind of get in that mindset, and maybe once a couple of people will actually say, yeah, come down, and you do something well, and then you share it, or, you know, you tell somebody else about it, that then leads you on to the next one, and then you just get into that habit then of never being afraid to kind of like approach on an opportunity. Every time well, certainly for the last year, not last year, 2020, because nothing was happening really, but the last year before that, anytime I seen something that had any kind of possibility of me stepping in and actually improving something for them, I just jumped on it. You know, I didn't sit around, and it didn't matter whether it was first thing in the morning or last thing at night. I didn't go, oh, I'll maybe do that one time. I just did it there and then. And I have emailed people, or I have DM'd people, or messaged people at like 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. Because hopefully what'll happen is the first thing when they woke up, when they're doing that like quick scroll through the phone, or when they log on the computer in work and I'm the first email or whatever it is, you know, that might in some way have a like that's not a good phrase. That's not a good
You look like you're in Sopranos or something on my screen right now.
Give it a couple of seconds. I think it's like, you know, when a camera has like maximum recording time before it'll like sync over to the next one. I think it's that. Something to do with that. No, I'm back anyway.
But you know, like talking about the like putting yourself out there. Obviously, this week I've spoke to you about a personal project I want to take on, and I'm getting someone else involved in that. I know I was going to kind of rely on them to reach out to this company that I wanted to be about. So I don't talk about it too much now because one, I don't have enough fucking facts to make it interesting. But I thought, you know what, this guy does know them, and I know that if I get him involved, it'll be great, and he can put me in touch with them. I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do it myself. And I sat there, wrote that message that I screen grabbed and sent to you, and that guy came back to me, you know, fairly quickly saying, yeah, I'm definitely up for being involved in this. And I think sometimes as well, like, I think we might have touched on this earlier, but I know you're as bad as I am for not taking your personal projects further, especially when you're doing a lot for other people. I look at a lot of content. Anyone who's producing content, I think it's fair play to them. It's good content. If they're getting off the backside and doing it. Becky and I were watching, she was showing me someone on Instagram, some woman who's a comedian, and she does everything with that weird, you know, with the like green screen in the background. It's all like really shit quality. But she does different angles while she's doing it. And I was watching this thinking, fair play to her. She's making the effort to record this so it looks like she's having a conversation, and it's all really shit, like quality, but it's really good content. And I think, like, I look at some people and think, I could do that, I could do it better. And it's not that I'm thinking theirs is shit, because they're doing something I'm not. And it's easy to criticize, like, you know, fucking typical trolls on the internet. They're the people who are sat at home doing nothing, criticizing everybody else. But it's too easy not to do something yourself. I'm sure we'll talk about it more, even though technology's come up in this one, about what you do and what you don't need. But don't let it stop you. Like, don't go back to the beginning of your phone, your camera, whatever you've got to begin with. Utilize it to the best you can. It's way easier to do it now than it was when I started 20 years ago, when you had to dev film and stuff like that, or digital was so expensive. But you know, you're going to be part of this project I'm doing, which is basically just something that I'm interested in and I want to do. But it's taken me a while to get back to this point of doing something like this, because you say, go back a few years before I really got back into photography and started doing it again as a career. When I went out with my mate and did those shots of him and smoke grenades in his trainers and stuff, once work picked up after that, all that stuff just goes to the back. You know, that those personal projects and those passion projects go to the back, because you are putting yourself out there for other people. And when you've done that, you do need to step back and have that wind down time, especially when you're in a job where you go out with a client all day and you come back and edit, and you've got to, you know, find that balance for everything else. I think it's important to balance what you're interested in yourself, what you can do for your clients, and then obviously your personal life has got to be in that as well. But don't let one of those things stop the others. They can all work together without a doubt.
Yeah, I think these are good signs, I think, for certain people to maybe think, how did they do that, or how did they do that? And I think the misconception is a lot of people will assume before they actually know. and that's the big downfall as well, a big put off point. You know, if you see someone who's got like the best whatever's in the world and they're doing all kinds for all these other people, it doesn't necessarily mean that you will ever not go and be able to do that same thing with possibly lesser equipment. I went to a festival last year, major festival, music festival, after only being doing music photography for about 4 or 5 months, and kind of just sucked it up and just kind of like approached them and said, you know, I'm interested, I want to come down. You know, I totally went out there with the understanding that it wasn't a paid thing, but I understood that like the level of impact that it could have had afterwards could have led on to better things. And even though it was very scary and very frightening thing to do, to actually ask that question, I did. And then I kind of went in there bottled up like, oh, everyone's gonna like be a million miles ahead, everyone's gonna have XYZ the cameras or whatever. And I went there, and the refreshing part was that they were all very normal, nice people. A couple of them had the exact same camera as me. A couple of them had a worse camera than me. Like, and it's all of that. It comes down to the mentality of like, you know, don't stop yourself. Don't allow yourself to not approach something just because you're fearful of the fact that somebody else might be better, or they usually they typically use somebody else or whatever. Because some people times like the refresh. I've had events kind of have conversations with me about replacing their steady, you know, 3-4 years in people who do their content for them. Not because for any reason that I'm better, and in my opinion, I'm not better than them, but just for the refresh rate of like they just want somebody new. That's a factor that play into some people's minds, and that's something to maybe take care of as well in your own head.
But this what we're doing right now, I think ties into that massively. Like we've we've talked about doing something together for the last 2 years, which I think we've touched on this in every all 3 of the episodes we've done, with this in the third. We've talked on that, and it's just not happened for various reasons. You know, actual paid work, life, you know, families, kids, the rest of it, and then lockdown. We were like, well, we should do something, and then every one of these we've shot. Not everyone, the 3 of them we've shot. One of us has had some kind of technical difficulties, but you know, you've done it on your phone.
Sorry, I was just having some then because my lead fell out of my laptop to charge it up. And
you've done one on your phone, you've done one on your Mac webcam, and now this one's with this way. And I've done 2 with my cameras, and then today it's not happened. And I was getting that frustrated trying to sort it. I was like, oh no, we'll do it another day. But then I'm thinking, well, if I'm waiting for that piece of software to be updated to use my camera with me Mac, or I've got to find an adapter, it's like we're going to be another week ahead. And it sounds stupid, but it doesn't sound stupid at all. If you apply that to when you're doing something like this, where it's literally 2 mates having a chat and we're hoping someone benefits from it, you'll never do anything with anyone else. If we apply that mentality of, oh, I don't want to do this because like my background today is shit, and my mate who watched Stars the other week was going on about how beautiful my background was, and it was all shallow depth of field, and that's what I'd like it to look like all the time. But we wouldn't be doing this now if that's how fixated I was on doing that. And if you're going to look at someone's work and say, I can't do that because I don't have this camera, well, no, you're never going to do it, and you're not going to get the work. You've got to go out there with what you've got. You know, for years I shot with one camera and one lens. I shot with a 24-105 f4, not particularly amazing depth of field at all on it, but it did me for years, you know. And I went out and I carved kind of a career using that kit. And then when I got back into it 5 years ago, after having a few years off, and I invested in stuff again, like that's evolved massively over the last couple of years because my work's evolved, and I've been lucky enough to be in positions that one thing has put me in a position to do something else, and then I've gone, well, this is what we need for this now, rather than going, well, I can't do that because I don't have it. And not putting, again, the technology can hold you back as much as it can put you forwards.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like I was just thinking then when you were saying about, you know, thinking about what you've got and what you can do with it, there's that like stupid thing of like, a bad workman always blames his tools, but it's very
Yeah.
accurate because, you know, you can maybe think, oh, well, I haven't got a big, stupid, daft photo lens. You might not get maybe as good if you had X, Y, or Z, a bit of equipment, but you could possibly do just as good. Similar to you just said there, I literally, on this camera that I'm shooting on now, Nikon D750, the best lens, the only lens that was only ever on it was a 50mm 1.8. Now I know that that's like not really, it is kind of versatile depending on how you use it, but you know, there's a plethora of lenses I'd rather have had. I shot a full music festival on almost this camera with that 50mm, a music festival, front and back. You know, I had a second camera, don't get me wrong, with a bit of a slight zoom on. I had a second lens, which wasn't very good, but I did it. And the end result gave me that kind of like mini portfolio. Not, you know, not every single photo turned out the way I wanted it to, but some photos turned out really well. And those photos were the photos that I used to kind of like push on to the next one and the next one and the next one. So it's again, it's that like push of don't let your gear get in your head. You know, it'd be lovely to have all the most expensive things in the world like you do, but you know, very messing. But
you know what? It's right. But even
the
even
reality
like
is,
now,
like it doesn't have to be that way. I personally don't think anyway.
I mean, I shot for 2 years with two Canon EOS Rs, shooting this video content nearly 2 years, and then got the R5, and now I'm like, well, I want two R5s. I need two to match it up. And the bottom line is I don't. And since I got the R5, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, 6 months ago, whatever, gone again, whatever it was, I've made use of that one camera. Whereas other times I just use two out of kind of laziness. Whereas one makes me work harder in a lot of respects. And yeah, I would love to have two, or I'm like a mine up a Canon C70 now, which is the new entry level cinema camera, and I'd love one of them because it works with the RF lens system I've got. But it's not essential for what I do. Certainly for my clients, like you look at the last couple of years of my work has been kind of the online weekly content has really kind of pushed me for what I can do. But I've had offshore clients where, you know, I'm going on to brand new vessels and shooting, you know, safety and induction videos, and then I've been shooting for a school, like doing their virtual kind of tour because you can't, you know, hold open days and stuff. And everything I've done has provided easily what this client wanted. And probably, well, I know for a fact with the school, they were really blown away by the quality of what we produced with it. Would it have been better with a £10,000 cine camera? Probably, but I wouldn't know how to use it. So it probably wouldn't be better with me behind it. You know, I do have excellent equipment, and that comes from being involved in it as long as I do, and kind of investing wisely and selling things to buy something else. But even now, you think, could I do something better with something different? And the answer is realistically just do with what you've got now. Or, you know, if you do need something better, go and hire it. Don't be put off by not having something. You know,
I hired a 14 to 24 lens that was about £2,000 odd to do for 1 week, and in that 1 week I was able to do a wedding and a festival. Creamfields, actually went to Creamfields, so I hired the lens to go, and it was even going there with that, I was a bit like, if someone sees this sticker on the side and they know that that's like a lens hiring company, does that mean that I'm like downgrading because I can't, you know, officially afford the lenses that they've got or whatever? That plays on your mind as well. And that was last year. That was like 4 or 5 years in. So it'll always
a mate of mine,
you know,
a mate of
don't allow
mine's
yourself out.
So you keep losing your audio. I thought you stopped talking. Say that last bit again.
No, it was just don't let it kick it out just because you feel like somebody might prejudge it. I think the judgment part of what other people think as well is another big turning point.
That's like talking about how you're perceived by that equipment. A mate of mine who is an amazing photographer. He's a Red Bull photographer. He travels the world with Red Bull. He's got a load of photos up for the British Photography Awards at the moment. Like he's outstanding. And I got him to shoot our wedding, and he'd never shot a wedding before. He didn't want to shoot it, but I pecked his head to do it because I just knew he'd bring a totally different perspective and angle, you know, to the way he'd done it.
What's his name?
Leo Francis. So he was putting posts up a while back because he travels, not 2020, but prior to 2020, travelled the Wales with Red Bull, photographing like races across lakes. I can't see that. Races across lakes, frozen lakes, and you know, the desert and stuff like that. And he was putting up loads of stuff about, I can't remember what company it was, but a hire company that was sending him lenses because either something had got broken while he was there, or he'd realised he needed something else while he was there. And this company was shipping worldwide to him like next day, and he was really promoting them. Whether or not it was a paid partnership, I don't know. But my point in this story is that I looked at that as, this guy's probably the most successful photographer I know, the best photographer I know by far, and yet he's quite happy to tell the world, I'm hiring equipment. And that's important. Maybe that comes to a point that he's comfortable and he realizes he's established. I don't know. I'll text him and ask him. But he,
so will I.
Sliding into his DMs.
See that point about spotting opportunity. I'm not saying I'm going to like get anything, but even like, I don't know where that connection's going to come back, like potentially at some point. And this is another part of getting your head around spotting opportunities or potential opportunities, or just something that might expand your thinking or your thought or your ideas. Or because I might see something on his page and go, oh, I could do that for X, Y, or Z, the place. You know, I've got a little bit of a mini partnership going on now with this cabin company in Wales, which I approached during last lockdown, knowing that no one was going anywhere or you know, anything like that. And I just kind of sent them an email and just said, you know, I've noticed that your Instagram page is great. You've got a lot of followers, but a lot of it looks like mobile content or borrowed. You know, is it not something that you might consider to actually create a partnership between us, where I can create you something in exchange for, you know, and these little things all come back and point out. And on the back of that, I've ended up, you know, having this potential contract for when things go back to normal. You know, and I've already spoke to you about it, about how I could kind of charge them up and things like that. And there you go, like there's another opportunity. But if I spot something on this lad's Instagram and he's doing something a certain way, I could then adapt his version into my own, and that makes better for future events or whatever. And then there's the spotting opportunity part, and just stopping yourself from being scared. Do you know what I mean? Just stop being frightened of your own success.
The only thing I'd say is that, and I think we did touch on this last time, is where I would say the time to be reserved on something and not question you're good enough, but question you're prepared, is something like a wedding or a job that can't be redone. Like, don't walk into something and think, oh, well, I've got to take any opportunity and fucking go and shoot a wedding by yourself when you've never shot one. Like when I got weddings, I reached out to someone my mum used to work with. Someone my mum used to work with, who would set himself up as a photographer. And I'd been a photographer for I'd assisted for 5 years or so. And I went to him and I said, look, I'd like to get into weddings. Any chance I can come along with you, and I'll just be your second shooter for the day. You don't need to pay me. And I did 2 or 3 weddings with him, got a really good understanding of it, and then went into it. And for years I'd said, I definitely said this before, but I say, I don't want to do weddings, I don't want to do weddings. And it wasn't that I didn't want to do them. I was genuinely scared of the pressure of being prepared for a wedding. And the flip side to that is, and again, I don't know if we've touched on this before, I do know, unfortunately, some tragic stories of, you know, being asked to shoot weddings, someone telling me it was too expensive, and then they went with a really cheap photographer who's lost like all the images. You know, I know a couple of unfortunate situations like that, and there's definitely an inexperience thing. Like, I bore people when I talk about weddings now, because I'll tell them all the backing up and everything I'll do in me redundancies and stuff like that. They don't need to know, but just so they do know that I do consider that. I'm not just expecting to turn up with one camera and one memory card and, you know, take the risk that that card's going to fail that day. That's not the way I would do it. And there are certain other jobs where if you've only got one opportunity to do it, you need to know you're prepared and competent to do that. Whereas, you know, if you're shooting still life for a client and you've talked yourself into it, or if you've got like 2 days to do something where things are going to happen multiple times, fucking hell, knock yourself out, just put yourself out there to take those opportunities. But you know, you do need to be reserved, I think, in some situations, and think, am I ready for this? And if you're not, get someone involved with you. You know, get someone who can either advise you, help you, or just be there as a backup for you. You know, and there's loads of people out there like that will help you.
Let us be that person as well. Like that's what this is all about. Is, you know, it's not just us about us throwing something out there and just going, oh yeah, we're YouTubers and we do a podcast, video podcast. We're kind of hopefully honing in on those individuals who maybe are a little bit scared or are a little bit unsure or are a little bit inexperienced. You know, I think between the pair of us, probably to some degree, for pretty much answer most questions or at least know where to find the answers at the very least. So, you know, this is, I'm not saying it's like a plug in, but this is like a hopeful community build of people who can help out other people, because it's hard. It's the mental struggle, and will, I don't think, ever end. And I think when it does end, you know, what does that person look like? I think if you're always thinking, I'm going to go into something, I'm going to be the best, I'm going to do the best, and no one can be better. And I think my experience of people like that is a lot of people don't like them. You know, it's difficult to warm to people who are kind of like one-uppers, I like to call them, who always think that they've done better and you're always worse off, or whatever like that. I know a lad recently who was shooting something, and he came and done it for free. I won't name any names or anything like that, but this lad came down and done it for free, just kind of shot this thing, I'll say, because I won't give it away. And they already had their time saved professional video person doing it for them. And during the kind of the thing, he was on a lot of occasions getting kind of put down by this time saved professional, saying, you know, oh, you only got that yet, or oh, how can you doing that? You shouldn't be doing that. I wouldn't do that. And like really putting him down. And we had like a few moments out and just kind of like airing it between us. And he was just like, oh, he just keeps on saying this and just keeps on saying that. And I give him a few like little preppy words and whatever, but his own idea was, do you know what though? I'm not going to let it like deter me. All I'm going to do is I'm going to absolutely smash this to bits. Oh, this was really good as well. Technology!
This be a good point to wind this up as well.
Yeah. So this lad basically kind of said, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of smash this to bits. I'm going to put my absolute most effort into it that I've ever done before. I'm going to really push myself. And he did exactly that. Off the back of the actual thing, from a promotion point of view, this inexperienced person, their kind of like video that they put out was by far and above, and I agreed as well, better than their time saved person, you know, and the actual team behind it as well. They loved it. They took them kind of under their wing from that point and said, you know, what else can we do together, and things like that. And it was kind of nicely and refreshing to think, well, you know, the opportunities are always there. You just got to kind of work hard enough and go and get them, and, you know, not be afraid that, you know, not put yourself off, you know, let other people be the judge of what your abilities are to some degree. Go out there, as you say, be capable, know that you can do something, but at the same time, don't be afraid to go and learn that something, otherwise you'll never start.
And on that bombshell, let's end it there. That was perfect.